Six Flags. It's bigger than Corner. And wherever you are this summer, there's a Six Flags theme park.
We all have places we associate with as safe or memorable in a longing way, be it home or a place similar to home. Some of us may have a place in mind that isn't even close to the word, but a haven that invokes our most wonderful childhood memories. As a kid, I was always fascinated by amusement parks. Even as I narrate, I can imagine myself there. Snack vendors with every single treat you can think of, yells and screams of people up on roller coasters and the vast metallic thrill rides that seem to hold the very sky itself up. However, from time to time, I would also have strange dreams, seeing those same exact images, only something was way off. Impossibly large and complex rides, a haunting and dark climate, and attractions that defied all laws of nature and science. I felt as if it was an affront to my own childhood. Those nightmares I had used to traumatize me. But what if such a place actually existed? A location masquerading as an innocent theme park, hiding something so profaned, so insidious underneath, that it could use its powers to manipulate you for its own disturbing reasons. Not an innocent amusement park by any means, but a playground for a cult. And in its center lays a throne for an ancient evil that feeds off the young and the innocent. Tonight, we will be doing a deep dive into the mystery that surrounds such a park and rend back the veil that hides an atrocity unmatched. So go ahead and grab that cotton candy and popcorn, make sure your harness is nice and secure, and get ready to plunge into the hellish landscape that is Liminal Land. Created by YouTubers Nexpo and Nick Crowley, Liminal Land is an ARG about an extraordinary and mysterious theme park set in the New Mexico area around the year 1975. Rivaling the likes of even Disneyland, the park offered experiences and attractions to its patrons, the likes of which had never been seen before. From endless mazes of pools, rides and attractions that seemed to be both alive and constantly changing, and even on-site living quarters, sprawling an indefinite length underneath the park. Almost immediately after its grand opening, the problems began coming in droves. Disappearances, deaths, and haphazard investigations into the mysterious park and its founding corporation, Charon, ultimately led to the park's unexplainable closure in 1989. Yeah, that's right. It took more than a decade of horrendous incidents and circumstances to finally shut the place down. Whether this was by design or what I believe to be Charon's hand being forced remains to be seen, as we still have no definitive proof of why the park closed. We do know, however, through several archival pieces, that there was something beyond human control happening at Liminal Land, and there would be nothing Charon could do to stop it. Now, Liminal Land, at its core, takes two concepts familiar to the viewer's psyche and weaponizes it to great effect. As I mentioned earlier, we all have our memories of places visited as children that invoke a great sense of happiness and nostalgia, and for most of us, trips to theme parks with family and friends should reside pretty high up there. Growing up watching late 90s commercials of Six Flags, Disneyland, and Universal Studios always brought a sense of wonder, and I can personally recall every single visit to them as if it happened yesterday. Attacking these memories and instincts with an aberrant version of them, in theory, should evoke the opposite response: fear. This series doesn't hold back, punishes you for it, and you're left questioning if all those parks you went to were really as innocent as you thought they were.
Look at the photo. Look at the photo. Look at the photo. Look at the photo.
In 2019, a post was made on the message board 4chan, which talked about a place described as the back rooms, a place removed from our reality entirely. The picture that accompanied this post depicted an endless maze of sickeningly yellow walls and carpet, the deafening hum of bright fluorescent lights, and the unsettling sensation that you aren't alone here. Although this image and its accompanying post are what launched the liminal space aesthetic into the mainstream eye, the word liminal itself has a much older history. Liminality, derived from the Latin word limen, is defined as the state of being in transition between two stages or places, or the feeling of uncertainty that comes with the transition. Think of it as you are currently at the threshold between moments or places. Perhaps a breakup or a divorce, a move between houses, or even just a simple hotel hallway. From this, liminal spaces were birthed, and with it came an onslaught of unnerving images that, without proper context, threatened our inner child and sense of security. If you're beginning to see a pattern, there's a reason for that. And don't worry, we'll get there soon enough. Speaking of archival documents, we can actually trace the beginnings of Liminal Land through archives found on the park's website. In 1975, the Charon Corporation bought a large plot of land in Lake Valley, New Mexico, wherein a clean energy power plant and conjoined facilities initially stood. Lake Valley in itself was also described as a very small, isolated town, making it an ideal location for this plant. The plant would also lead to the foundations of the attraction Subliminal Land being retrofitted, and even the reactor itself being the innermost location. Also note that Charon was gracious enough to make this location the most sought after, a place where, due to constant reactions, death would come in under an hour. If you had any shred of common sense, you'd figure by now that Charon had built their entire operation on top of a potentially advanced nuclear plant. This also will be very important to remember. In an astonishingly rapid and equally unknown fashion, the park was erected, and Liminal Land's door officially opened that same year. Even for Lake Valley's minute population, crowds mysteriously amassed from across the globe and flooded the park. It was considered a success, no matter how much controversy or anomalous circumstance enveloped the park, so much that there was a primal, orchestrated need to keep the occupants in the park for as long as possible. Never one to be caught flat-footed, the Charon Corporation created the Home Project, a massive labyrinth of living spaces underneath the park. Spanning an immeasurable area, Home incorporated the same aesthetics that Liminal Land was known for. 60s, 70s, and 80s home design appealing to that familiar sense of homesickness and belonging. It's unfortunate, however, that the employees of Charon responsible for building and quartering Home didn't feel the same emotions that Home was supposed to give off. Reports of strange, unnerving noises and unsettling anomalies put the workers in a frantic fugue state, and it wasn't uncommon at all for this to happen. Oh, I forgot to mention, there isn't just written and pictorial documentation of this, there's archival footage as well. The investigation team, whoever may be responsible, had compiled several pieces of video media documenting the key events in the Liminal Land mystery. While it seems there is no official chronologic timeline, we'll take a deep analytical look at each and discover more about this aberration. The video opens up with a broadcast sign-off that may actually look familiar to you. After the music fades off, a series of missing persons posters flash by on the screen. The description of the video states that despite Lake Valley's population being so small, there was a massive uptick in missing persons cases, more specifically being attributed to Liminal Land. There are two important things to note in this video. One, most of the missing are children. This is important to note as we dive further into this topic. Second is Margaret Jacobson and Angie Munoz, who will eventually play a part in this mystery. There is an article in Liminal Land's archives that described Margaret's house burning down around the same time she disappeared. Even more interesting, although there were no charges pressed due to Margaret's children perishing in the flames, another poster can be found in the archives, this time stating that foul play was suspected, along with graffiti defacing the poster. Angie, without giving too much away yet, is a key to unlocking an even bigger mystery at the park. If you felt a certain type of way about that video, there's also a reason for that too. There was an actual broadcast in 1989 which had the same exact pre-recorded anthem, only there was a sudden, quick cut to a missing persons poster. The uncanny appearance of the woman named Joanna Lopez, the abrupt silence, all of this was enough to rattle any viewer watching, especially children. The craziest part is that the broadcast would go on to play throughout the night, leaving the same unnerving photograph up until normal broadcasting resumed. I figure the best question to ask now is, what's happening to all these people? The description for this video states the following: a recovered tape from the main office at Liminal Land Park. We're working to uncover the others, as this seems to be part of a collection. Oddly enough, this video is listed for home video, and from what I can figure out, either this is some type of error, as it's a company training tape, or it's intended to mean home, as in Liminal Land's home project.
Look at the photo.
How you can even begin to comprehend who is dissatisfied or not is equal parts baffling and terrifying. All these pictures depict various locations, two of which I can suspect to be the Paradise Playrooms, as most of these pictures depicted children. That being said, it's the subjects themselves that invoke an unsettling feeling. To even call them human is impossible. For every picture, there's an amalgamation of human features twisted and contorted. To that, there is no distinction. They are all contorted into expressions of fear, ecstasy, and pain. At one point, the video shows a brief caption which could say one of two things: "The park is alive," or "The park is a lie." I'd like to believe the former, as the video demonstrates the first glimpses to the viewer that the park has supernatural capabilities, able to twist both physical material and even reality itself to its own will. On that very same note, we've barely scraped the surface of the featured attractions at Liminal Land, a crucial part of the puzzle. These are the known locations: the Hall of Walls, Paradise Playrooms, Subliminal Land, the Laugh Track, Centrifuge, Skyliner, the Chrysanthemum, Serpentine, Funhouse, and Invader Cave. There are also 2 unmentioned rides, and of all the rides, as mysterious as they are, none is more mysterious than the Anomaly. The ride seemingly appeared as suddenly as the park itself. In the investigation tape, the details are as follows. We're given a case file along with the title, "The Anomaly Within Liminal Land." It goes on to describe in recent months the New Mexico State Police has been made aware of an anomalous attraction at the park. The ride itself is believed to be tied to numerous cases of facial deformity, as noted by Lake Valley Regional Hospital. What we can assume to be the local broadcasting station has declined to cover these cases on local television, seemingly because some depiction of what's happened to these people is too graphic for a general audience. They state that this record will serve as a suitable alternative case study for the anomaly itself. It then goes on to detail several victims of the Liminal Land anomaly, starting with Rick Ackerman. One interesting thing to note is that it displays his medical conditions, which include mild anxiety. He visited the park in 1988 with his wife and 3 kids, when he seemingly snuck away from his family to ride the Liminal Land anomaly alone. It then goes on to show a photo of what happened to Rick after he rode the Liminal Land anomaly. His face contorted into a ghastly grin, seemingly missing his eyes. The cause of death for Rick remains under investigation until further notice. The next victim, Lena Sorensen, had an occupation of a teacher. Linda brought her first grade class to Liminal Land in 1984. While they were there, Linda decided to take the children to the park's Paradise Playrooms, a popular attraction among young children. It's noted that Linda remained with the children for only 7 minutes before she suddenly left the building through an unnamed rear exit. Wonder where she went. The children were left at that place for 8 hours and never even noticed that she was gone. Linda's body was discovered in a patch of dirt behind the Liminal Land anomaly. We can go on to assume that her deformities are the same, if not worse. The police department refuses to elaborate on their findings from the crime scene, and I'm beginning to wonder if maybe the local police department has a hand in this as well as Caron. Maria Ramos was noted to be a director and the medical notes state that she had some type of arthritis. Maria visited Liminal Land alone in November of 1982. Maria allegedly rode the wheel before making her way to the Liminal Land anomaly. It's interesting to note that the wheel isn't one of the mentioned rides at Liminal Land. And that day, the Liminal Land anomaly was reportedly closed for repair. Park officials had noted that she had gotten on the ride, yet did nothing to stop her or even question what she was doing there. Maria then approached the Liminal Land anomaly and operated the ride. The ride's malfunction was an issue that caused it to run non-stop. She was on that ride for 26 minutes non-stop. And this was the fate that Maria had endured. As the video explains, these are some of the first known deaths at the park, or at least those that this unnamed investigative team, most likely the New Mexico State Police, have covered. The anomaly itself lives up to its namesake. It is still unclear how, but the ride appeared suddenly, and with it came an otherworldly pull, a hypnotic effect luring people towards it. The effects of the ride seemed to warp the flesh itself, twisting the affected person into something only vaguely representing a human shape. Through the sheer force of velocity of the ride, or other, more nefarious means, remains unknown. It's beginning to make me look back to the last video, the training tape, and the fact that the park itself might be a living, conscious thing. One of the other rides, Serpentine, has gained a reputation as a legend of sorts among park goers, who mention that the ride seemed to writhe and move, although this too could be due to poor engineering and construction. One very, very interesting fact about this video is that the people mentioned outside of Maria, that we know of, seem to be adults meant to be wards over their children, sentinels, if you will. A father figure and a teacher lured away from their children at this malicious park, only to succumb to a horrific fate. Whatever is doing this seems like it wants children at their most vulnerable state. What its intentions are, though, still remain to be unknown. So far, I hope you guys are still with me. There's a lot to dissect here, and we're just about to crack open a massive concept. So just to recap, Liminal Land opened in 1975 after its founding company, Charon, surveyed an area of land in New Mexico. They used a questionable location, a clean energy observation plant, more than likely nuclear in nature. While utilizing and retrofitting the plant, they created the park in a record pace, and with it, an impossibly large mob of people began to attend, making it the most successful park in existence. However, there was a great deal of mystery surrounding the park, including numerous disappearances, malfunctions, and even deaths. Be that as it may, this did not stop park goers from coming in until its sudden closure in 1989. The only individuals involved in this investigation seem to be the New Mexico State Police, who have launched an almost clandestine and shrouded inquiry. The archived information on the park gives little information on Charon, save for its role in creating the park, and a certain figurehead in the corporation, Dr. Schlittenberg. There's still one burning question that remains, however. Is the park actually alive? And if so, what is actually controlling the park? The next tape in the series, found footage, Home, takes us into the first-person perspective of someone likely to be either a disgruntled employee, private investigator, or a park goer, into the bowels of Home, Charon's magnum opus of Liminal Land. For context, Home, or the holistic and opportune mutual experience, is a titanic underground structure beneath not just Liminal Land, but the remains of the Lake Valley Observation Center, the aforementioned power plant, and an indeterminate size of the state of New Mexico itself. Repurposed from the quarters that once housed the plant workers, Home blended 50s style home decor with 80s style aesthetics, creating a picture-perfect representation of both the uncanny valley and familiar liminal spaces. As I mentioned earlier, not everyone shared the same sentiment that it generated homey vibes, but instead had a mind of its own, and also was something more than living quarters. A maze, labyrinth, or worse, a trap. In the video, we follow this person as they attempt to navigate the labyrinthine construct, either looking for a way out or something more specific. As they make their way around, phrases appear over the tape telling us to ignore strange noises, not to enter a stranger's home, and never leave passages unblocked, or our curiosity will become regret. I can see why. Venturing deeper in, they come across what seems to be both a non-living sector of Home and a remnant of the old plant. The person approaches the door where an ethereal orange light and screams emanate from. Panicked, the person bolts off, but not before another set of phrases appear on the screen. Do not go in there. You'll never be seen, may never be right, and you are already dead. The exit, though found, seems to be blocked by some strange material, and whatever was in that room seems to have finally caught up. We are finally then told, those who seek departure will lose themselves. In the next video, the investigative tape Mommy's Friend, we run into another familiar face, Angie Munoz, a girl in the missing persons broadcast. The video details her disappearance, and we come to find out what may be behind the entire park itself. You see, outside of this video and the found footage video, there's one other page I've been waiting to mention on Liminal Land's website. If you go to Investigations, you'll find yourself needing a password to gain access. After some research, the password has changed, but while it was up, if you put rite of passage in, you'd get this image. Charon, what have you done? The figure in the picture is a Canaanite deity, Moloch, a being steeped in power and child sacrifice. Looking back at images of the park's mascot, the home found footage, and Mommy's friend, we can find its influence has been overbearing from the beginning. In Home, the video depicts a locked room with strange noises emanating from it. Two things to note. Outside the door, you can see the words C Block and Charon. Charon, I can understand, as they would brand anything in the park they could get their festering hands on. What you might not know is that C Block stands for something very specific. We'll be getting into that in a second. We hear what sounds like almost a bull bellowing. In most depictions, Moloch is a minotaur, a Greek monstrosity consisting of half man, half bull, and is a curse from the gods. In Mommy's Friend, the story that little Angie drew depicts a horned figure with several slots in its torso. This is undeniably the same depiction of Moloch in the rite of passage post. So, what exactly does Moloch have to do with Charon and Liminal Land at all? Here's what we can figure so far. Moloch is a symbol of power requiring great sacrifice. Charon takes its namesake from the Greek psychopomp, a ferryman shuttling lost souls between worlds. Sounding familiar yet? As the end of the found footage reel states, as well as the literal slogan of Liminal Land, getting lost is an overarching theme within the series, and Charon is the vessel that will transit these lost souls right to Moloch, who, in this form, has now weaponized everything about your childhood that you held sacred. Those comforting spaces, images of childhood innocence, have been eviscerated and reformed into nothing more than deadly emotional traps. Moloch now has both the metaphysical and the reactive force to keep it all going. By design, Charon, and mostly Moloch now, have used these ideas and concepts, such as liminal spaces, childhood nostalgia, and the like, to turn Liminal Land into something more than just a theme park. Remember how I said and keep saying that C Block was of importance? And power plants, C blocks are generally considered containment blocks or containment areas. I had a feeling when I researched this that clean energy wasn't just some nondescript form of energy, but something else entirely. The door in C Block of Home wasn't a door to be opened. It was holding something inside. With all of this in mind, I've drawn 3 theories up. Theory number 1. This is just a run-of-the-mill corporate entity with cult ties that found the perfect site to summon an ancient deity, barter a deal, and give it an endless supply of sacrifice in the name of profitable gains. 2. They knew this was a site that had enough power to summon Moloch, imprison it, and use its powers for the same reason I just mentioned, which doesn't make as much sense as both the first theory and the one I'm going to propose. One that, the more I watch this series, the more I'm believing this to be the case. The Charon Corporation and their ties to Moloch go back longer than we can know, and they needed a proper spot to conduct their rituals. The Lake Valley Observation Center was the ideal location. However, in the process, something went horribly awry, leading the park to not just being a place where Moloch resides, but the park being Moloch itself, or at least an avatar of Moloch. Somewhere along the way, the ritual went wrong, and Charon has done everything to mitigate the damage, but to no avail, leading the park to be completely abandoned. It's still alive, and at the park's core, Moloch still resides, awaiting more sacrifice and influence. In turn, the sacrifices and the operating reactor both fuel Moloch's existence, allowing it to constantly shift the park to its will. The only question remaining unanswered is not a matter of if, but when Liminal Land will reopen its doors. All in all, I found this ARG to be one of the most criminally underrated and fascinating series in the niche, and I hope that its creators, who have very much outdone themselves with both storytelling and fan service to our perverse internet horror society, continue to allow us to uncover this mystery. If you guys liked this video and hung with us till the end, let me know what you thought. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on what you think about the series and the theories I've come up with. Until next time, grab a souvenir at the shop, pick up your picture at the Laugh Tracks kiosk, and stay weird.